Yes, team, welcome to today's lecture on basically how to stay on plan. Basically, everything encompassing the struggles that people normally go through and the common reasons that people tend to struggle to stay on plan. By staying on plan, I essentially mean ticking the boxes. So, getting your steps done, getting your nutrition done, getting your training in, stuff like that. And it normally comes down to one of three things, and that's one of these three things here is environment, decision making, and planning. But anyway, let's jump straight into it. So, first thing being, the truth about like staying on plan and adherence is about reducing these factors right here. You know, reducing friction, removing decisions, building habits. Like you got to understand, right? When you start something new, you're not going to have the habits in place to start with. You know what you need to do, or you're being told what you need to do, but you don't know how to do it. You know where you need to get to, but you don't know how to get there. So it's learning how to get there every single day. It's the same way like if you start a new job and you've got to take a route to work, you'll get two trains and a tube or a bus. At first couple of weeks, it's going to be like, right, you're going to have to keep on checking your phone to make sure what time the train comes out, what time this bus comes out, where do you have to walk to, what's the quickest way. And then after a few months, it's like you're not checking what time the train's coming out anymore. You're not checking what train it is that you're getting on, what's the name of the bus. You now know shortcuts on how to get there a little bit quicker. So it's the same sort of thing when it comes down to following the plan, right? It's something new and you're not going to get perfect at it straight away and you're not going to have it optimized straight away. There will be a lot more friction at the start as there is a teething period with anything new, right? But just stick at it and try and learn from everything. You know, if you fuck up, that's fine. Like if you fuck up and you mess something up or it's not as efficient as you want it to be, that's absolutely fine. And that will happen, but you're only going to get better at it by fucking up. Like the same way in the gym, right? You're only going to get better by failing. You're only going to get better at this by failing. And the easiest way to execute a plan is to make sure you enjoy it. You know, you can have the most optimal plan on paper, being like, oh, I'm eating the best food sources and I've got this and I've got that, and this is what all the successful people do. But if you're not enjoying it and you can't adhere to it, it's not the best thing to do. Like the best if you see everyone around you having 5 meals, but you struggle to get 5 meals because of your shifts, then 4 meals is going to be better for you. Like that's just the way it is, and there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean that you're going to make less progress. It means that you're going to make more progress because you're actually able to be consistent and adhere. So that's why it's important for you guys to let me know if you are struggling with anything, if you're not enjoying anything. Tell me what it is, tell me why, tell me what you think potentially would work better for you. It doesn't mean that would definitely change it. Sometimes it is about looking between your legs, grabbing those two dangly things and saying, right, I've got to fucking man up here and get on with it. But sometimes it is a case of like, there just needs to be better planning, and I need to change something as the coach. I need to change something in your plan to make it easier for you, to make it more efficient for you. This is not a dictatorship. This is not me saying it's this way or no way. There's multiple different ways to skin a cat, right? There's multiple different boats that can sail the sea, and it's about finding the right one for you, finding the right way for you. So that's why it's important to communicate with me things that you're finding hard, but also things that you're enjoying, because then I know, right, they like to do this or you like to do this way. So when I'm making a change further down the line, I can remember that and I'll be like, right, well, I tried it this way before and they couldn't do that for whatever reason. So I'm going to avoid that later on down the line. And if we have to do it that way, sometimes you got to do it that way. But if I can avoid it, I will. So the first thing is like removing that decision fatigue. Now, examples of like decision fatigue on day to day life will just be simple things like choosing what to wear the next day. Like it sounds very simple and very like weird, but like a lot of people that are very efficient with their day to day life, they wear the same things every day. Like, and they just don't really think about it. They're not picking out their outfit every morning. They just got the same 3 or 4 outfits that they pick. Like I'm sure yourself included watching this, you probably have the same 2 or 3 things that you like to wear to the gym. Just apply that to your everyday sort of life. And that's why where the plan comes in, have the same breakfast every day, same meal plan, same training day and non-training day meal plan. That way, you know exactly what you're having. You're not having to do an if it fits your macros, and you're not trying to figure out how to fit this in. Then you're stressing because you're 10 carbs under and you're wondering how to get that 10 carbs in. If you just eat the same thing every day, it's so much easier. And then you still have that flexibility of I can have a meal out, but at least you've got the core of the plan down. Training at the same time every day or the same time every day in terms of what you can do. So, for example, shift workers, they're not going to be able to train at the same time every day. However, they can train at the same time every day of that shift. So if they're on an early shift and they finish at 2 p.m., they'll probably train after work. every time they're on an early shift. But if they're on a late shift and not starting until 2 p.m., well, guess what? They're not going to train at 2 p.m. because they've just started work. So they train early on a late shift. Now, some days that might mean that they train in the evening or in the afternoon, and then they train in the morning. There's nothing wrong with that because that is what works for you around your life. It's all about making it work around your life. And then other examples, this is just like, the same grocery list kind of comes into the same meal plan. If you're eating the same foods and same meals every day, every week, you already know what you got to get when you go to the shop. Like if you're going to Asda, Tesco, Sainsbury's, and you're doing your food shop for the week, or you go every 2 times a week, you're not having to walk down up in every aisle thinking, oh, what should I have for dinner on Wednesday and what should I have for lunch on? You already know what you're having. You already know the amount you're going to have. You just got to go and buy the same thing. That cuts your time in the shop down. Some people might spend half an hour, 40 minutes looking around, choosing what they want to have for food that week. You're in and out in 10 minutes because you already know where everything is and you already know what you need to get, and you kind of don't even stop. You just walk, pick up, put in, walk, pick up, put in, self-checkout, beep, 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 fastest gun in the West type of action, and you're out, and meanwhile, Big Bertha's still deciding whether she wants a casserole or a lasagna for breakfast, for dinner on Friday. She can't pick, so it's all about removing that decision fatigue and just being very clear on what it is that you need to do. And it's as clear as this at the bottom. Less decisions, more consistency. Simple as that. Next biggest thing that I think is probably the biggest thing that we'll speak about here is controlling your environment. And if your environment is conducive towards your goals, then you're just going to make so much more progress than people that are almost got like a high friction environment. So examples of this is, right, if you're someone that struggles with snacking, but then you're buying snacks to keep in the house, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. It's a bit like for people that are into the natural bodybuilding scene, it's like obviously these people have been prepping for months on end, they're hungry, and then they come off stage and right next to it is a cookie dealer. They're these custom made cookies that are like fucking so must taste so good. Never known because I've never actually tried one, but I can only imagine how good they taste. It's a bit like an alcoholic coming out of rehab, and the first thing they get pushed into by the rehab center is a bar. You're playing with fire. So make your environment conducive towards your goals. So that was just one example of just like not keeping things around you that can take you off plan and ultimately aren't conducive towards it, but just also removing triggers from there and preparing stuff ahead of time. Environment can also mean like for preparing meals, instead of having to cut your veg every single time you're making a meal, just every 3 days cut veg for the next 3 or 4 days. Instead of having a whole pepper that you cut up every single day, just cut up the pepper in one go, and just that way you can just go into the Tupperware or the bowl in the fridge and just take it out. Buy your stuff frozen, makes it so much easier. Meal plan, control your environment. It's simple as that. Have your drawers organized, have your fridge organized with what you're going to have. Even write on the Tupperware on your prep meals: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, rest day, training day, whatever it is. Another thing that controls your environment, if you're someone that works from home and you struggle to get your steps in, get a walking pad. Have a walking pad in your house. Get a stand-up desk. That's might be a more extreme one for a lot of people. However, there's always a workaround for everything, right? There's always a way to make something easier or ultimately make something more accessible. If you're someone that doesn't want to go to the gym on your days off to do your cardio, get a spin bike for at home. Amazon Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, £20-40 sometimes on Facebook. Get them used. It doesn't have to be a big purchase every single time. Then this is ultimately the second, if not tied with controlling your environment, but planning. And it's the thing that people struggle with the most. And most people just wing it, as you see here. But if you can plan what you do and you know what you're doing on Monday, you know what you're doing on Tuesday, it just becomes the default. The same thing with like the traveling to work analogy. If you know what you've got to do and it's just a case of you just got to tick the box and do it, you can almost go on autopilot. And then you don't even have to think about it, and then you can actually leave the brain power to the more challenging tasks on the day. Say if something crops up, like your car breaks down, you can worry about that, or you got to go pick something up, or you got a big task at work or something like that. Instead of having to juggle what you're going to have for meal 3, or what you're going to have for breakfast or dinner the next day, or what you need to do later, you already know what you need to do, so you just focus on what you're doing right now. So if you know in advance when you're going to train, when you're going to eat, when you're going to walk, when you're going to sleep, it just makes your life so much easier. For example, me, like, I eat at the same time every day, and I'm sure most of you will. Like, I have my 5 meals a day. I eat around 7, 10, 1, 4, half 7 every single day. And if there's a bit of variance in that, that's absolutely fine. But I know around then is when I eat. And again, if I can't, that's absolutely fine. But that's around then. I go on walks after my meals when I can. Again, sometimes I can't because I'm at work. That's fine. I know I can't because I'm at work. So what I do is on those days that I'm working, I do a little bit more before, or I accept that I might do a little bit more after. If I'm out or doing something like that, I just plan, plan, plan. If you've got, and let's say you have months and months and months, or weeks and weeks and weeks doing the same thing day in, day out, and there's all of a sudden you've got something planned for a Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon, and that throws off your schedule a bit. Let's say you normally do a food shop on a Wednesday afternoon, but you are going to visit someone, so you can't do that. Well, you have one of two options, right? Well, one of three options. You either, the first option, the worst one, is you just say, fuck it, I'm not going to do the food shop, and I'm just go to the thing, and then you're not going to have your meals prepped for the next day, and then that one evening out has now fucked up the next 2 or 3 days of progress. You have the other two options, which is I either just go the day before or earlier on in the day, or I go first thing the next day. That way, you still got to go out and enjoy yourself, and you still be able to get on plan the next day, which will lead me in to the next point in a moment. But to help with planning, obviously communicate that with me, but also fill out the planner tab. The planner tab is there for you so you can actually have a visual of what you need to do, like almost like a to-do list. But also it means that if you're coming to me saying I'm struggling to fit in my steps, or I'm struggling to do meal prep and stuff like that, I can see how your day's structured and I can help you with that. But like I just said a second ago, it's making the default choice the right choice, right? If you can make the default choice the right choice, it just makes it easier. Like, and these are just a few examples of, instead of thinking should I train today, it just becomes I train at 6 p.m. It's easy as that. And then, like we said about the meal plan, like instead of having to think like what am I going to eat, or should I eat at 2 o'clock, should I eat at 4 o'clock, it's right, I eat at 3 o'clock and I have chicken rice broccoli, or I have my yogurt. It is as simple as that. If you can make the default choice the easiest choice, and the easiest choice the right choice, and I think that's the biggest one, easiest choice the right choice, everything becomes so much easier. For example, a lot of people will say, oh, I had to grab food out today because I didn't have my meal three on me. Why didn't you have your meal three on you? Oh, because I didn't meal prep it. Why didn't you meal prep it? Oh, I just couldn't be bothered, or I forgot. Well, you shot yourself in the foot. Or the worst one I've heard before is I didn't take it to work with me. So you prepped it with you, but you're not taking your meals to work with you. Oh, because I'm worried about what people are going to think about me. Well, I know that's a whole different topic in itself, which we'll talk about, but you've got to understand, right? I need a sip of water because my voice is going. You've got to understand, right? It's your goals. You've chosen to do this. No one's making you do this, and no one cares. So if you've meal prepped it, take it with you. And if you haven't, and then you're complaining about your progress, or you want to make the most amount of progress possible, you need to prep your meals. So yeah, just making the default choice the right choice, and making it the easiest choice. And then the final bit is just expect imperfect days. And what I mean by this is not every day is going to be perfect, right? You might have weeks and weeks and weeks where you follow the plan perfectly. You're enjoying it, you're loving it, progress is flying. Then one day you're going to work, you've got your meal prep on you, you take out the fridge, you turn around to put it in the microwave, you drop it, shatters everywhere, all over the floor. It happens, right? So you go and get something else to eat, you go and get a meal deal, you fit it into your macros. Now, what some people do is they have an all or nothing mindset. So they think, oh, I've had one meal off today and I'm really annoyed at that now. I'm really stressed about it. So now I'm just gonna eat off plan the rest of the day. I'm gonna order a Domino's tonight. I'm gonna have a takeaway. I'm not gonna do the rest of my steps. I might not even train later. I'll go to bed a little bit later. And that all stemmed from you accidentally dropping your meal prep. Now, that for some of you that might seem crazy. To some of you that you might be thinking, I've done that, and that's fine. You're not the first person to have done it. You won't be the last person. But if you can avoid that all or nothing mindset, then you'll make more progress than other people's. Because just because one thing didn't go your way doesn't mean the rest of the day doesn't. And as silly as it sounds, like an analogy I'd give this, right, is if you were trying to drink some water, right, You go to drink it, fine, you go to drink it, and then you spill a little bit down you. You look at it, sort of go, oh, I spilt a little bit, and you just get the rest of it and you just pour it over your head. Would you do that? No, you wouldn't. You would just accept, oh, I was a bit of an idiot there. I spilt a bit of water. That's fine. I'll have the rest. And I won't spill any. Whereas some people, what they do is they spill the rest of the water and then they blame it on the fact that they spilt one little bit of water. Well, no, you accidentally spilt one little bit of water and then you purposely chuck the whole glass out. So just don't let one mishap ruin the rest of your day. And again, if something has happened and it's something out of the blue or you don't know how to deal with it, instead of panicking and thinking, oh, Josh he's gonna tell me off, he's telling me that I'm fucking useless. I'm never gonna tell you off, mate. Message me. Message me. Just say, oh look, I've dropped my meal prep today. I'm struggling a little bit. I don't know what to have. What should I do? I'll help you. Or if it's something like my car's broken down today and I can't get to the gym, I can't train, what am I going to do? I'll help you with that. Sometimes it might be a case of, well, is there a gym closer to you? Have you got a gym around the corner for you that you don't normally train at? Like, is there a leisure centre around the gym for you that you can go train at, pay for a day pass? Or is it a case of, right, well, one day off won't hurt. Something's come up, one day off won't hurt. For example, myself, I've had to drop my car off in an MOT expecting to get it back later, and I didn't get it back for 2 or 3 days. And I didn't have a gym around the corner from me, so I took a few days off. That's life. It happens, right? So, of course, if any doubt of anything, always just ask me. There's never any shame with anything. I've fucked up in the past. Everyone's fucked up in the past. Anyone that acts like they're perfect and has been perfect the entire time is lying. Simple as that. And then, yeah, just final takeaways is like motivation will start your journey, right? But the systems you have and the planning and decisions you make are what determine how well you can do it and how much you can repeat that same day and same process over and over again. And staying on plan is ultimately controlled by your environment, your routine, your decisions, and your actions. Your actions towards all three of these, but your actions above all. Actions speak louder than words. You can say you want to do something, you can say you want to make progress, you can say you want to do this, but if you don't, like I said earlier, if you don't look between your legs and grab those two dangly bits and say, I've got to fucking do this, you're not going to make the progress. So yeah, of course, any questions, any of that, big guys and girls, let me know. Otherwise, follow your fucking plan, communicate with me, and let's make some fucking awesome progress.